If you want to continue to follow our adventure, click subscribe. So you don't miss anything, click the bell notification. Well, I wanted to cover a couple topics today, a few topics, some questions in the comments and just different things. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the temperature in Texas. It seems like no matter where we go, temperatures are always much cooler than what is normal for the area. So obviously here we are in West Texas, and right now it is 61 degrees. Earlier it was 59 when I came out here and then got distracted. So when I came out here, it was actually 56 degrees out here in West Texas. Now, I'm sure everybody thinks, oh, you go to Texas and at June 7th or 8th, whatever today's date is, and you think, my goodness, you're going to be boiling down there. But we're not. I mean, it's absolutely incredible temperatures. Yesterday, it was cold. It was just downright cold. We've had one hot day at 95 degrees. So, I thought I was in the mountains, but we're about 3,400 feet in altitude. I don't know if that's having any difference in it. If I was in Missouri right now, this morning when I looked, the temperature in here was 56 degrees. In Missouri, it was 69 degrees. Actually, we've been waiting to go to the North Rim because it's so cold up there. North Rim this morning was 58 degrees. So it's 56 here, and in the mountains in Arizona, 8,000 feet in altitude, it was 58. So it's actually warmer there by 2 degrees than it is here. We're going to come back down here in the winter. Now, I will talk about propane a little bit. I've noticed that my propane has got a yellow flame, but we're going to come back down here because of these free campsites that have free electric. Obviously, we'll be able to plug in our little space heater. I think the temperatures in November and December are going to be, mild enough that our little space heater will keep up just fine without having to run the propane. And we still wouldn't use that much electricity. I figure with the refrigerator, computer, and our little space heater, we'll only be running about 70 cents a day in electric, so that we can pay our donation and still come out quite nicely. Now, the other day I talked about propane. I really suggest that you do some research on propane. First of all, let's just all admit that propane is extremely dangerous gas. And if you're using it, you need to be using some extremely cautious behavior and think about every aspect of everything. I've done a lot of work trying to understand propane. In the beginning, I thought, well, I just throw in some carbon monoxide detectors, no big deal. And in the pop-up camper, that wasn't no big. It wasn't an issue. Pop-up camper, it was so ventilated, it really didn't make any difference. But in our camper, it's pretty airtight in there. I built it very well insulated. It really holds in the heat quite well. But it also holds in the gases also. So over the last winter, our carbon monoxide detector went off, our windows shut, and the carbon monoxide detector goes off. If we don't have our windows open with a nice little cross breeze, it's terrible. Well, I learned something. My stove, I was using my stove to heat with. Well, I noticed that one of the burners had gotten dirty, and it was producing a yellow flame. Well, almost instantly after I turned on the yellow flame, carbon monoxide detector went off, even with the ventilation. So I started researching. If you have a yellow flame on your propane heater, propane is not burning correctly. And so the more the flame is yellow, the more carbon monoxide you're producing. I looked this up. I mean, you should Google this on your own. If you have a yellow flame, you're producing more carbon monoxide. The reason is because the flame is not getting enough oxygen. Another aspect you need to think about when we talk about oxygen is, my camper is very well insulated, very sealed up. So with two of us in the camper breathing, we're sucking up all the oxygen in there. So when you have your heater on and you're sucking up all the oxygen and the propane's sucking up all the oxygen, you get a yellow flame. And then you start producing carbon monoxide and your carbon monoxide detectors go off. Now, I suggest you get 2 carbon monoxide detectors. I have 2, just in case, one of them fails, the other one still goes off. The other thing is I noticed, if you put them on opposite sides of the camper, one may go off and the other may not. So, that's important. Also, carbon monoxide doesn't always just follow patterns. Actually, carbon monoxide, I believe, is heavier than air, so it settles at the bottom. So if you can get them closer to the floor, that's better. But the other thing is, and this is what I was actually surprised about, was somebody argued with me that when you go up higher in elevation, it shouldn't have any effect on propane. But it does. Again, Google it. You should look this up yourself so you understand. If you get up to 10,000 feet, you actually have to start making adjustments on your appliances, whatever you're using. Now, obviously, you can overcome this simply by opening up windows. But if you're producing a yellow flame above 10,000 feet, you're producing a lot of carbon monoxide that you wouldn't produce as much with a blue flame. Driving in the wind, people say, hey, you're just going to have to deal with the wind. I understand what you're saying, but the wind is actually quite dangerous. If you're hauling a high-profile vehicle, such as our camper, our truck camper, or even a fifth wheel or travel trailer, if you watch some of these videos in South Dakota just blasts you with the wind, and it always is a north-south direction, and Highway 90 is an east-west direction. So you're heading west, you're going towards, the Black Hills or wherever, and this wind is just this crosswind constantly beating you down, beating you down. Well, if you watch these videos, you always see these tractor trailers and fifth wheels and everything, they just roll right over. If you're not getting a tailwind or a front end wind, now a tailwind's real nice because, it's like a sail for me. It hits the back wall of our camper and just pushes us down the road. It really does. It's quite nice. I get like 30, 35 miles a gallon when I get a good strong tailwind, 30 mile an hour tailwind. But when you get a headwind, now, of course, you're going to reduce your gas mileage. It's going to be harder on your truck, but you're still okay because you're not getting this rocking motion. But if you're having to turn your steering wheel, even maybe a quarter of a turn to fight the wind, I would suggest that you hold off on travel. Now, I say that, but the problem is when you're living the nomadic lifestyle, it's not so easy to hold off on travel. Yesterday it was very windy. We're getting 30 to 40 mile an hour gusts of winds. When I started out on our trip, of course, we were heading south and I was getting a nice tailwind. But then I had to turn east, and all of a sudden I was getting this crosswind. And I was really having to turn the steering wheel. Of course, I'm not following my own advice. How come I'm not following my own advice? Well, I had no place to go. I had to go to the next campground. Fortunately, it wasn't a long trip. Like I said, I went south, I think 30 miles, and then I had to go east 30 miles. So I just reduced my speed. I had my flashers on, and anytime someone came up behind me, I would get off to the side of the road so people could see around me and easily get a transition around me. Thanks for watching. Click like if you like video, and happy travels.